Hi, my name is Phil Colcord, President of Fraternal Armed Police Evergreen Lodge 1 in Kitsap County, and this is our outreach program. Today we have the honor to have Chief McGanney, the Chief of Fire Department for Bremerton. Nice to meet you, Chief. Your name's Pat, right?
Correct.
Yeah, Pat, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, yeah, thank you for having me, Philip. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for
coming. I've been the chief for Bremerton Fire for just a little bit over 5 years. I've been with the department a little over 32 years. Started as a firefighter EMT and worked my way through all the ranks, lieutenant, captain, battalion chief, assistant chief, and fire chief. I didn't spend any time in the fire marshal's office, which is another division. I did spend some time in our training office as a training lieutenant and battalion chief, also there. So kind of seen a wide perspective of the fire department and have really enjoyed it. So
that's good. Yeah.
My career started in the Air Force. I right out of high school joined the Air Force and ended up as a firefighter in Las Vegas for 4 years, and then came back home and worked for...
Boy, a rough place to work, huh?
Yeah, it was a little warm. It was different down there. But yeah, it was a great place for a 19-year-old kid. We had some fun. Very busy fire department. And then I worked for Boeing for 1.5 years at their fire department in Renton, and then came over in 1991 to Bremerton.
Okay, and been there ever since.
Been there ever since.
Well, good, good. So what are you most proud of in your career as a fireman?
Well, Bremerton Fire Department's been around since 1902, so we've got a long history. I would say the resilience of our employees, what I'm most proud of in the world of the fire service and emergency service, not only over the last 30 years that I've been here, but since our inception has changed so much. And what we have to deal with back when we started, it was more of a fire department. Even just as far back as 50 years ago, we ran about 667 fire calls back in 1973, and a total of 96 aid calls. In 2022, we ran 1,027 fire type incidents and 9,990 EMS type incidents. So over that 50-year period, the fire department has really changed, and the employees have adapted and overcome. Back in 1973, we had 57 firefighters and responders.
And you were a big department then for
the area. We were, but today we still respond with the same number of calls with 57 firefighters. Back in the heyday of Bremerton, back in the mid-40s, we were up to 75 staff firefighters, and that doesn't include our administrative staff. Those are the line staff that are running calls. So, but yeah, our employees have been able to adapt and overcome, and
that's good.
Just in the 30 years I've been here, the type of calls and the people that we're seeing are constantly changing. So
yeah. So have you increased your EMT firemen?
So everybody on the fire department,
is EMT now?
Including myself, is either an EMT or a paramedic. So we run 3 paramedic units. We have a total of 18 licensed paramedics, and then everybody else is EMT. So we typically have a EMT and a paramedic on our paramedic unit, and then our ladder truck has got 3 firefighter EMTs on it, and then the fire engines have 2 fire lieutenant and an EMT on it. Yeah,
back in my day, we were all made EMTs because most of the aid units were just first aiders, and they ran to the fire station to pick up the rig when a call came in. So
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's come a long way, but it sounds like you're really overworked with all the aid calls you get.
We do. We run a significant amount of aid calls, and then of course with the hospital moving out of Bremerton into Silverdale has created some other challenges. Our units are out of service longer now than what they were. Yeah. So we're working through those.
Okay, that question that a lot of people wonder and ask, or are afraid to ask, is why are your equipment vehicles all yellow?
Well, so back in the 70s, early 70s, there were some studies done, nationwide studies done, that lime green and lighter colors of that were more visible. And the thinking was that they would create less accidents with emergency vehicles. Everything was red. So back then, one of our firefighters was a body person, automotive body person, and he did a lot of painting and stuff like that. And he came up with our color, and it's chrome yellow. Not school bus yellow, not yellow, but chrome yellow. And it's been that way since the early 70s. They actually painted a few of our apparatus in the basement of our old station to get them up to chrome. And ever since then, we have ordered them from the manufacturer, chrome yellow. So,
Yeah.
and that's who Bremerton is. We've had, over the years, we've bought new apparatus, and the employees, not by large majorities, but have decided to stay with the chrome yellow because that's been our history over
Gives
for a
you a
long time.
distinction, right?
It does. It identifies Bremerton. So.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Kate, this one I've heard, and I'm sure you've been asked about many times, but tell our audience here, why do you get an aid call, but you send a fire truck?
Right. So, like I said, we only have 2 people on fire engine. We have 2 people on a paramedic unit. So if we have a critical call, serious car accident, somebody that's having a major medical emergency, cardiac arrest, stroke, it takes a lot of hands to deal with that type of emergency. So that's why everybody's trained at the EMT or paramedic level and firefighter. So we don't have anybody that's just trained one way or the other. Everybody is dual trained, and it just takes a lot of hands to be able to handle that. So, I mean, for instance, if somebody's in cardiac arrest, we typically rotate every 2 minutes on who's doing compressions. Well, you can see that takes a lot of staff. We do have some help with some automated machines now that do help us with CPR, but it just takes a lot of hands. A car accident, we got to have people taking care of the patients, but we also have to have people to be able to get
So basically,
cars.
they run the truck because they need the manpower at the scene.
Manpower and the tools.
And the tools.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's why, and that's not just the city of Bremerton, that's pretty much
Yeah,
in the
it's all
state of
over the place.
Washington. In most of the fire service, you get on the East Coast and they run a little bit differently sometimes, but for us, especially in the state of Washington, most all firefighters are medically trained too, so they help each other out.
Yeah, that's good to know. I didn't know that. You can't have too many trained people.
No, you just never know what's going to happen.
What's going to happen, what
Right.
you're going to need.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't get all the information from our dispatch. Not their fault. They're just dealing with the information that they're getting from the person on the other end of the line. And sometimes they're really scared and they're panicked. And so we just want to make sure that we have enough resources to be able to help the people.
Yeah. Another question is, this day and age with the way things is, I know the police have a heck of a time finding people to hire. They're not standing in line like they were before to that. In fact, you go around the community, there's help wanted signs in all of the stores, or a lot of the stores. And it's not just here, it's all over the country, and it's kind of sad. But what is the hiring process, and how are you doing staffing-wise?
So we're doing okay. We have 4 vacancies right now for paramedics. Paramedics are a little bit more challenging to hire just because of the education level. Paramedic school takes between a year and 18 months to get through, just depending on the program. And everybody's hiring. So firefighter-wise, we're okay. I mean, it's easier to hire a firefighter because we've changed our requirements for the firefighter EMT. You don't have to have any experience. When I hired on, you had to have your EMT because that was a 3-month schooling, and that was hard to get over to get through schooling and then your fire academy. So between those two, it's about 20 weeks to get a brand new person. So right now, you don't have to have your EMT, you don't have to have any fire experience, and we're seeing more and more of that. Back 10 years ago, everybody that was coming in had some fire experience. They were either EMT, they were a volunteer or resident, so they kind of knew what was going on with the fire service. But now we got people that want to be firefighters, which is great, and it's opened up a pool of applicants that we never used to see. But with paramedics, they have to go to paramedic school.
Right.
And we're even looking now at trying to put together a program to get our own people to go to paramedic school.
Yeah. Are there grants for that, federal grants that you can get for?
No, not to send people to school, not right now. There's 2 programs, federal grant programs, that are out there. There's one for equipment, and then there's one for staffing that's available. But the staffing one is only a 3-year grant. So if you get that grant,
you have to be able to pay for them.
You got to be able to have to pay for them afterwards. Yeah. So, but we have taken advantage of that. We've hired 3 firefighters off that grant program.
Well, that's good.
So, and hoping to be able to do more.
What position did you enjoy most as a fireman?
I think being a firefighter is the most fun. Kind of warped scenario, thought. I mean, to be able to run into fires. I don't know, I like that. I mean, that is such a challenge to be able to run in there and deal with the heat and everything that goes with it. It's probably not normal thinking, but every position that I've held brings its own challenges, and I've really enjoyed each step of the way. Being chief, has been fun because it has the most challenges I've ever dealt with, but I've been able to, you're able to affect probably the most change at good. That. Yeah. So, but
I chuckled because it reminded me back when I was a cop, and I had some friends who were firemen, and we thought the firemen were crazy because they run into burning buildings, and they thought we were crazy going after people with guns.
Yeah, the people that shoot with you, shoot at you.
And then I got a best friend, he's since passed away, but his son, he was a cop too. His son became a fireman, and another friend of his that he was really close to was a fireman, and his son became a cop.
Yeah, the whole police side of things and people shoot with the fire, we can kind of control. People shooting at you with guns, that's a little harder to control that situation.
Yeah, but fire surrounds you.
Yeah,
gun is a small bullet.
Well, yeah, true.
Okay, let's see. Yeah. What's your vision for the future?
Well, dealing with the changes in emergency service, not just the fire and everything that we're due. So we're having to look into the future, and hopefully we can up our staffing, right? I mean, that's one of the big goals. But also how we're responding to some of the emergencies. The homelessness and unhoused is one of the issues that, of course, we're dealing with, and looking at different partnerships and how we respond. And we do have a partnership with Peninsula Health that we run the BAT program, which we refer some of our patients to them to get them the resources that they need that we can't provide, and hopefully help keep them out of the emergency room and
similar to the program
the CARES program that Chief Gillard talked about a while ago. So we're all in coordination with those type of programs.
That's good.
So, but just looking at being able to look through different challenges, different training opportunities, letting the fire department grow, and to be able to serve the citizens the best that we can.
Well, that's good. And the homeless situation and the chemical dependency situation, they need all the help they can get. And first responders like yourself and your department, they're on the front lines with these people, and it's a difficult job. Sometimes they get mad at you, like you told me about. So.
Yeah, the issues with, that surround the unhoused, and I mean, everybody has their own story down there. And it's not just Bremerton, it's,
It's
all over.
all over the country, really.
And that balancing that trying to understand that, along with understanding, trying to, it's hard because we can't necessarily, we're kind of reactive to what we do, right? I mean, they call 911 because
Right.
they have an incident, but trying to get them to the right resources. And there's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of groups and everything else that are trying to help, but understanding chemical dependency and how somebody got there and what help we can get them, it's tough. It really is tough. And our responders have they have a little bit different perspective on it, and because they don't get treated as well as probably they should when they're trying to go down and help. And that's not just fire, that's law enforcement, and it's trying to meld that, one, having compassion and understanding that somebody that's unhoused and is addicted to drugs has their story and has their why, with trying to run as many calls as we are, and making sure that we try to get that balance.
Well, it's a dilemma. It's a big problem, and I don't know anyone that has the answer to it. You have the chemical dependency group; they're in desperation, and they need help, but they don't necessarily want the help. All they can think about is their next fix, and that's a big obstacle to overcome.
Well, I think that's their why, right? I mean, that individual who is addicted to drugs and doing drugs they're hurting someplace, and how they got to that spot, we don't know.
Yeah, I was involved with working drugs for years, and never met anyone that got hooked on purpose. They wanted to feel good, that's why they did it. But I never met anyone that was hooked on them that it was easy for them to get off. And with the drugs nowadays, it's impossible. They need help to get off of it. And the biggest problem is there's not the housing to put them up. The care units. I had the sheriff on here and I was talking to him. He goes, even if we can talk them into going to a rehab place, we have no place to put them.
Yeah, and even some of them have housing. I mean, we're dealing with some that have housing in Bremerton, that they come back to the streets because they don't like the rules, right? I mean, they have to stay clean and sober, and that's hard for them. And with addiction, they have to want the help. They have to want to get, and sometimes it's easy. It's easier just to take the drugs and get rid of the pain that's there than it is to accept the help. And sometimes, I mean, I couldn't imagine the ones that are unhoused, that's the low of the low, right? I mean, they have hit rock bottom, but getting them to climb out is tough, and they have to want it. But some of the drugs, they affect people so bad that now the drugs create mental health issues.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, and a lot of them are that
sometimes
way.
There's no coming back from that, right? I mean, the human body.
It even goes one step further than that. That if the parents are doing drugs, their newborn kid, they end up with mental health issues caused from being exposed to the drugs, before they were born.
Right. Yeah, and it. Yeah, I mean, the mental health issues that causes, right? The damage that causes to the brain is just unfathomable.
Well, we just have to keep working on it. Hopefully something will come along to fix it down the road. So.
Well, I think it's going to take a lot of partnerships to get there. And
I do too.
Get everybody together. And I know, in the city, we're working that way. We're trying to get people. People are frustrated because it's not happening now. But this situation didn't happen overnight.
It ain't going to go away
and it's
overnight.
not going to go away overnight.
And on that same note, and this is me on my pedestal, not you. But I think homeless people. You need homes for homeless people. But the priority shouldn't be on throwing money into getting homes for homeless people. It should be in putting the money into rehab centers for those that are on drugs and putting into mental health facilities, because that's where the two main problems are. There's the third part that are in homeless, the ones that are down in their luck and out of work and can't find anything. Those you can find work for. And it may not be the job they like, but there's jobs that we can find for them, and we've got people out there looking and finding jobs for them. So they're not the issue, but the other ones are never going to leave the homeless situation, no matter how much money you throw into it, until they get cured.
Yeah, in Kitsap County, our resources are, for drug addiction and mental health services are pretty limited, right? I mean, back long time ago, when Western State was opened, and if you get on the other side of the water, they do have a lot of rehab facilities and more resources over there, but they also have a larger problem over there because of the population. And I think you're right, getting some of those resources and putting money towards those would be a help.
Yep, I agree. I think so. Okay. We're getting short on time here. Okay, what's the difference between a municipal and a district fire department?
So the city is really the only municipal fire department in Kitsap County. And what that means is the fire department is one of 7 departments within the city. So we've got the fire department, the police department, public works, legal, finance, parks, and they're all part of what we would call the general fund budget, and they're funding through that. And the city has different funding sources. They have sales tax, they have property tax, they have B&O tax, so they have different incomes coming into the city. Fire district or a regional fire authority, which we don't have out here, everybody's a fire district, they're strictly funded off of property tax. So they'll have a fire tax, and by state law they can go up to $1.50 per thousand is the max that they can collect. And then they'll have an EMS levy, which is 50 cents. So they can run off at $2 per thousand assessed evaluation of property tax only, unless they run special levies. But those are still based off property taxes. Okay. So that's a big difference. The funding mechanism for the two are different.
Anything else you'd like to add before we close here?
Well, I'd just like to thank you for your time and appreciate you inviting me to be here.
Thank you for coming. And you're welcome back. If you have things that you'd like the public to know, give me a call and we'll get you back on here again down the road.
All right. Well, thank you, Philip. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you. Thank you. That concludes our show for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll have more shows down the road. You stay safe out there and have a great day.